on the youth. So we're very clear about what the mission is. We're a faith-based organization, so we're rooted, we have a covering under God. But we also aim to ignite the success power in people. So you can do better, you're made for more, you can excel beyond, the now. But beyond all of this, we know that like we definitely need to be targeted. We can People are sent to different facets of people, and we are sent to the youth. So the emphasis is the youth, to ignite the success power in people, in the youth. And we do this with a certain core values. So we have core values within SWE, and we know that core values are guiding principles, right? So within SWE, we have our core values that we've acronymed SPEED, not the way you typically spell it. So it's SPEED, and it's, sorry, double SPEED, but we usually would just call it SPEED. The S stands for spirituality. As I said, we have a covering under God. Our mission is rooted under Christ. We're not doing anything or just on our own mission or voluntary ability, but we know that we have a calling under Christ, and this is why that is the first thing on our core values. The second is synergy. We believe in working together and playing to the strength of each other to bring the best possible result. So the second is synergy. If you know anything about SWE and you know anything about the would I call it the founders or the visionaries of SWE, you would know that this is passion. We're very passionate about what we do. Are very passionate about people. We're passionate about impact. We're definitely passionate about excellence as well. And so that is one of our core values. Then exemplary lifestyle. For SWE and the people of SWE and the SWE stars, that we call some people, we know that we do not preach what we do not practice. So exemplary lifestyle is a very big core value in it. We preach it, we also work in it, we see it manifest in our life, and we're definitely shaping the kind of future that we want to see. Another thing is excellence. Excellence, our leader has a personal mantra that I've now adopted that says nothing short of excellence. Nothing short of excellence, it meaning whatever you find yourself doing or whatever opportunity you have access to, ensure that you're delivering maximally. Excellence is motivating. It's not perfection. It's not demoralizing. It's, I'm going for something. I'm motivated to do it, and I'm going to give my best at it. And his wife also has, this is Kate, shout out to you, Kate. She also says, whatever what doing is what doing well. This is her own life mantra. So you understand that, like, as a body, as an organization, we have these certain principles that are guiding our lives, and excellence is one of them. The last two is discipline and diligence. Discipline and diligence. So we're disciplined to do what we've committed to do. We're disciplined to put in the work to achieve what we want to achieve, and we're diligent at it. So this is our core values: spirituality, synergy, passion, exemplary lifestyle, excellence, discipline, and diligence. And I'll just run through our mission very quickly. One is to nurture youth for creativity and excellence, to nurture youth for creativity and excellence, to teach youths God's way of success. So we know that a good thing is not necessarily a God thing, and there's God's way of success. There's a way and a principle that God would have us do things, and God would have us chart our lives. So we're teaching youths God's way of success. The third would be to help youths discover talent and purpose. I think the key word there is discover. Everyone has, some seed in them that can definitely germinate and grow to become, something bigger. But if you are not knowledgeable about it, if you don't even know the kind of seed or the kind of power that you carry, you cannot start harnessing that. So we help you to discover talent and purpose, to raise an army of people who will take over the economy positively, to raise an army. So we're not raising one, we're not raising two, we're not raising three. We're raising an army of people that will not break their rank. They understand the mission. We are taking over the economy positively. So we're not just those ones. You see those 7 pillars that we always talk about, or those 7 mountains. We're raising people to not just take over one, two, three. We're taking over. And if you understand, all of these pillars definitely affect the economy in some way. So we're raising an army of people who will take over the economy positively. And the last one is to help people ignite their potential. You have that potential. Whether it's dormant, we're helping you ignite that potential with our breakfast meetings, with all our sessions, with every program that is organized in SWE. It is not organized mindlessly. It is done to help you. Yes, you on the call. Oluwatobi, you on the call. Ibukun, you on the call. Adia call FT, you on the call to ignite your potential or to continue to harness the potential. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey today. We hope that the topic that we're going to be talking about today would bless you and also continue to feed that mission that we have, which is to ignite the potential. And just before we go into the session today, I'm sure you know that we have such an amazing person in our midst today. He's building a legacy. I think this week I went through the Instagram page and I'm like, no, this is definitely a life being well lived, because it's not now well lived, like you're actually living a good life, you're impacting, you're leaving a legacy, and you're shining your light. So I'll just read the bio of our speaker real quick, and I'll definitely go mute to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, and just to feed off, what God is doing in your life and see how that can also shape my life. Our speaker today, Femi Taiwo, is a transformative leader, award-winning social entrepreneur, and development strategist committed to facilitating impactful changes across Africa and beyond. As the founding partner of FIT Advisory Africa, a global impact advisory firm, he partners with private, public, and development sector organizations to achieve their transformative and social impact goals. Previously, Femi led Trace Academia, the global e-learning division of Trace TV, and served as the executive director of Leap Africa for 6 years, driving unprecedented growth in impact, influence, and income. His leadership catalyzed initiatives like the MasterCard Foundation Transformative Leadership Program, benefiting over 17,000 secondary school students and 500 teachers, mentors across 6 African countries. Amazing. And the Youth Day of Service, mobilizing 7,000 youths in 24 countries to execute the SDG project. Femi also co-chairs the $5 million Nigerian Youth Future Fund, co-created by Ford Foundation and MacArthur Foundation, empowering youth changemakers nationwide. Femi is a recognized expert in youth and leadership development. Femi is an Aspen Idea Face Scholar, an alum of Obama African Leadership Program, Praxis Accelerator, and the French African Foundation. Oh, wow. Femi is a recipient of the Junior Achievement Youth Ambassador Award. He holds an MSc in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship from Manchester Business School and a first-class degree in Computer Science from Covenant University, with an executive training from Harvard Business School. His board roles include the UN Global Compact Nigeria. With Jesus Joy and with a legacy-driven session, can we make welcome Femi Taiwo? Very welcome. Please, you can unmute. You can leave in the question. You can say anything. But if I just read that, it was so much impact in how many paragraphs. Please, let's make welcome again, Femi Taiwo. If you want to have a legacy, please. Amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
Thanks for me for the welcome, and thanks everyone for the welcome. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you, Ken. Yes.
All right, excellent. All right, just a quick one. I want to say thank you to Success and to Adebayo, Success Bayo, like you guys probably know him, and of course his darling wife Kate, and to the entire team at Success Within International for the opportunity to be here today. And it was good listening in briefly just before the session started. Thank you to our games master who did not have too much time again to manifest, but I'm sure you have more opportunities another time. And thanks for me for coordinating and moderating today. All right, so very quickly, let's start with, can you tell me where you are joining from? So just tell me your city, the city you're joining from, in the comment section. Just want to have a sense of where everybody is right now at this time T. So I have Lagos, Bradford, okay. London, is that London in Canada or London in UK? Because there's London in Canada too. Ontario, Dublin, Ibadan, okay. Worry, I worry people here, that's good. Vancouver, okay. Zion. For me, what do you mean by Zion? Is it the Zion I'm thinking of? Another Zion? Ontario. Okay. All right. You're welcome from Zion for me. Okay. So, guys, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm also from Zion, just like for me. When they was in Zion. Uh, but wherever you're coming from, wherever you are right now, thank you so much for joining. Okay, so let me start by asking a few questions, because I have an idea of what I want to do today, but I also have an idea that I can pivot, as I need to part time, right? So one of the first things I want to say is that, or one of the first questions I want to ask, so let's just do fastest fingers. So I'm continuing the game spirit. Our game master, thank you. Can you tell, when you hear the word legacy, what comes to mind for you? When you hear the word legacy, what comes to mind for you? So just type, I'm going to read a few. When you hear the word legacy, so Tosin said impact, posterity, or Indamola footprint. Okay, impact, posterity, footprint, change. Okay, change, posterity, impact, footprint, influence, lifelong change, remembrance. Okay, thanks, SOC. I hope I pronounce that. Creating value, Adebayo. Okay, all right. Now, second question, because and I'm still asking the same question, but maybe this is maybe another way to look at it. Give me three names, three people's legacy that inspires you. Um, they could be alive, they could be dead. So three people, three legacies, three lives of legacy that inspires you. So tell me, just mention three names. You can start with one and then mention others. So when you think about the legacy that someone has lived or is living, Ibuka Wishika, obviously, Mrs. A's legacy inspires me. I'm hearing myself. Okay, I think that person. Jesus, whoosh! Alexander, your mom, I love it. Ibuka Wishika, said Godwin, I think, or said God. I don't know who you. Ibuka Wishika, I'm hearing, I think everyone should mute or should mute rather so that we don't have any bounce back. David Oyedepo, definitely. Bayo Ajayi, definitely. Muyiwa Ario. Okay, I don't know who that is, but I'm sure John D. Rockefeller, Samade Emi Mandela, Peter Obi, that guy inspires actually. Jesus, my dad, DDK, definitely. Ngoso Kojaiwela, Adebayo Ajayi. Okay, now I want you to look at the names you've written and forget the word legacy now and just tell me what what attributes inspire you about these people. Just call out whatever adjective comes to mind, right? So, one word that comes to mind for me is intentionality. When I just look at some of these names that you wrote here, intentionality, and consistency, right? So, intentionality and consistency, tenacity. Alexander, thank you so much. Tenacity, love, wow, love, tenacity, intentionality, consistency, Audacity. Hey, you guys are helping my life and destiny here. Kindness. Wow, excellence. Definitely. Kindness. Kindness. Definitely. Definitely, 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 definitely. Selflessness. All right, keep it coming. Audacity, excellence, tenacity, love, discipline. I love it. Sacrifice. Wow, Tosin, thank you for that. Sacrifice, grit, right? Passion, okay, integrity, visionary. Okay, all right. So from this simple exercise, we can see that the lives that have inspired us, or the legacies, lived legacies that have inspired us or are inspiring us today, is a summation of some attributes and some values, right? Um, if you look, for those of you that maybe read biographies or you follow, there are quite a number, most of the names you have here are people that inspire me as well. And I've probably read a bit about them or watched something about them, or maybe in some instances, even have close relationship with some of them. Um, but one thing you find is that these attributes that we are using to describe them externally, right? Discipline, sacrifice, integrity, visionary, are really a major part of their core values, right? So the values, the thing that people value in them, you know, are integral to the way they live their life, core values. So your core values can ultimately translate into value, right? That other people value. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So that's the first thing I want to say. I'm very big on, defining your life. And so one of the things I want to talk about today, in a very unique way, is, the topic that was given was thinking beyond today, thinking legacy, thinking beyond today for lasting impact. So legacy, thinking beyond today for lasting impact. And when we are thinking about legacy, sometimes you find that some people start paying attention to legacy towards the latter part of their life. They start taking a step back, looking back and saying that, oh, what do I want to be remembered for? And then you find sometimes politicians start naming things after themselves, because they want to be remembered, right? They don't care how they make some money, then they start trying to do charity towards the end of their life or towards a particular season of their life. But what I want to say is that your legacy is not waiting for you tomorrow, right? Your legacy is not waiting for you tomorrow. Many of the names you called here have consistently and with intentionality lived a certain kind of life over the years and over time. And that's why, even in the different phases and seasons that you met them or you got to know about them, what you're seeing is a compounding effect that we are calling legacy today, of their values, of their purpose, of the attributes that they've given their lives over to, right? So that's the first thing I want to say. So how do we live a life of legacy today? How do we think beyond today for lasting impact? So I'm going to be sharing about three things. I'm going to run through some slides, first of all, and then I'm going to pause for questions and also then establish some things. But the first thing I want to say is that legacy predates you. That's the first thing I want to say. Legacy predates you. Another question is, whose legacy are you even living? Who, who are you to think you want to leave a legacy? Of course, you are someone of worth, you are someone of value. But my question is, whose legacy are you living? What are you living for? Who are you living for? That's the first thing. And the reason why I said legacy predates you is because it's very integral or very connected to legacy is the word purpose. And if there's anything that predates a product, it is the purpose for that product. Right? So let me share my screen because I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about purpose, because what you'll find is that beyond even living a life of values, a values-driven life, right, which is important for living legacy, right, you have to position within purpose and pursue purpose. And doing that by default is living a life of legacy, because legacy predates you, because purpose predates you. So what you want to start doing is living a life that already was fully designed, right? So let me just share my screen and run through these thoughts very quickly, and then we would pick up from that. Da, 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 tap, tap. Okay, can you guys confirm that you can see my screen? Not yet, but now can you?
Now we can see it, but not the
Slide.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. So the first thought I want to pass across is that legacy predates us, and legacy purpose is legacy, right? Um, Now there's some fundamental questions you have to answer in your life, even as you're thinking about your life. And I'm happy that we're all young people here. I mean, young is a very broad category, but no matter what, we all fall in that category. Um, and if you've not really spent time to ask yourself these questions, now or this season is a good time to ask this question: that what is the purpose of life? Right? Is life just about, earning a living, going through these cycles that society has defined for us? Um, there's always one new hustle that society puts in front of us. Once upon a time, it was JAM, it was WAEC, it was SATs, it was GMAT, right? Then it was trying to get into a graduate job or get into, start your career. Then the next also was make manager, or if you follow the entrepreneurial path, start a business, build a stable business, and then start pursuing growth in your business. There's always one hustle that life puts in our front. Once upon a time, he was single, and then trying to secure a relationship. Then it was making sure you marry. Now you're married. He's now building a family, right? And in fact, that itself is still part of the legacy, right? But what I'm trying to say is that within the midst of all that life puts in front of us and throws at us, the question is, what is the purpose of life? Is the purpose of life just to scale all these hurdles, and scale all these seasons? And then, we move from youthhood to adulthood, then we move to middle age, then to old age, then we put our children to marry, then we start doing omugo, and the like. Is that what life is about? What is the purpose of life? That's one question you should always ask yourself. What is worth living for? And what should I invest my life in? These are very fundamental questions, that you have to think about, and you have to kind of settle and update even what you've settled over time, in this quest for legacy. Because if you're not careful, you will just be living for today. You'll be living for the next hustle and for the next thing in front of you, right? And your worldview will just be narrow towards, I want to get this certification, I want to buy a house, um, I want to have this savings target, I want to retire early, I want to do this, you know. But that's not what life is made of, right? Those are important seasons and important part of life, but that's not what life itself entirely is made up of. So fundamentally, what is my purpose for life? What is worth living for? And what should I invest my life in? These are questions to think about. Now, the way you live your life, is heavily dependent on your philosophy of life, your philosophy about life, right? Now, some people approach life they approach life with the que sera, sera mentality. Whatever will be, will be. Some people approach life with the fact that they are accountable to someone who made them, right? And who has designed them for a purpose. Some people approach life with the philosophy of predestination and purpose, right? That there's a predetermined course of event and a predetermined future. Now, I don't know where you sit um, in this spectrum, but the first thing I want to tell you is that you were made for a purpose. And let me explain it to you this way. I want you to look at everything around you, wherever you are right now, whether in your room, whether in the library, whether in the park, whether in the car or whatever. And I want you to find anything in that place that was not made for a purpose. And I want to do this exercise very quickly. I want you to just tell me, Femi, I found this just beside me, and it doesn't speak to anything. It wasn't made for a purpose, right? It's an accident. So can you find something? Anybody find something that was not created for a purpose? Anyone? Look around you. So for me, I have a cactus plant, I have a chair, I have a table, I have a shelf, I have a lot of things around me, an air conditioner up there, fan in front of me, a laptop I'm using, um, Vaseline beside me, a Bible beside me, a lamp beside me, a shoe shiner beside me, an airbrush beside me, and a sticky paper beside me, a pen beside me, a business card beside me. Fumito is like, what's the purpose of the cactus? I love plants. So in our home, we have close to 100 plants in this house, right? Outside and inside. So purpose of plants, what's the purpose of the cactus? Do you mean in the context of my room or generally in life?
in life.
In life. Well, God is a very creative being. So he created all manner of species of plants, right? And he created some to weather the desert. So it's a very interesting concept that the cactus grows where there's lack, right? Where there's no water, where there is no moisture. And if you, in fact, we have several cactus. I have cactus in my office, in my actual office. There are cactus downstairs. There's a cactus in the room. There's a particular cactus that is just outside, and it was changing color. And I was telling my wife it's because we kept it under the rain, so it had received so much water that it's used to, right? And so we moved it under the shade, and then the color it started gaining its color back, right? So life is so full of wonderful mysteries, but purpose is and I'm going to speak about this a bit, that purpose informed design, right? Purpose informed design. Now, as great and as powerful as a cactus is designed to thrive in some kind of context and some kind of so it can thrive in lack and in heat and in extreme drought. But within a pond, within the abundance of water, it doesn't fulfill its potential. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I thought plants, you need water to thrive, you need water to blossom. But understanding your design even helps you to position for maximum impact. And in this context, legacy. So it's not everywhere you're meant to be planted. And I'm jumping ahead of myself, but because of that question from Fumito, I think I should just start with that. That see, when we talk about this destiny, this purpose thing, you cannot be everywhere. You cannot do everything, right? You know, you've heard this motivational talk that I know I can be what I want to be. If I work hard at it, I can be where I want to be. There's a context in which that is true. But why should a shark be trying to climb a tree or get better than a monkey in climbing a tree? Why should a monkey be trying to outswim a shark when it's made to conquer on trees, and the likes, right? So that's one perspective I want us to hold. But the first thing I wanted to establish with this exercise is that there is nothing that exists without a purpose. In fact, most of you here are probably entrepreneurs or you're creators or creatives yourself. You've created something. You've probably written a book. You started, I mean, Success Within International was created for a purpose. This breakfast meeting was created for a purpose. The theme defined a purpose, right? So everything has a purpose. So if you think about that, why do you think you, a very complex creation, do you know how many nerves makes up you as an individual? Think about the complexity of the biology of a human being, right? But beyond even the biology, think about the psychology. Think about everything that makes human, the physical, the biological, the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological, the physiotherapy, everything about it. This complexity was not created by a big bang, definitely, right? An accident, a cosmos accident could not have created this complexity, because we're even just talking about the complexity of the biology. Let's not even now talk about the personality and the passion and the talent and the giftings, right? The fact that one person woke up and is very good with instruments, or he can draw better than the other person, or this person just has a very unique mind that works in a certain way. None of these things are accidents. None of these things are accidents. And when the person who was creating each and every one of us individual was thinking about, he had legacy in mind. He had purpose in mind. He had something he wanted to accomplish, something big, something important, something significant he wanted to accomplish. And then he created an individual to come and fit that purpose or come and fill that gap, right? And so I just want to take us back to the beginning. The reality is this, that in the beginning there was a creator, right? And that creator created you and I, and scripture is so full of different perspectives about this. God was talking to Jeremiah. So I love the fact that this is a faith-based platform, so it's easier to describe this. And it was saying, before I formed you, I knew you, and I formed you in your mother's womb. Before I formed you, I knew you, right? And I ordained you to be a prophet, right? So that was his interaction. That before I formed you, I knew you. There was a knowing. There was a knowledge. There was something that predates the formation of you. And there was an ordination that predates the formation of you. There was a legacy. Your legacy is to be a prophet. So destiny is legacy. Legacy is destiny in this regard. You know, one person that had a very good insight into this was David. David was talking in Psalm 139 that your eyes saw my own formed body, you know, before I was made in my mother's womb. He said, all the days of my life were written before one of them came to be. He said, wow, I'm fearfully and I'm wonderfully made. You know, have you seen, I woke up this morning and then my phone had a white line, right? I guess it's when, because I have a set of twins and they brought them into the room one and they were jumping on the bed and my phone was on the bed. They probably jumped on the phone. Now I started watching, so I spent a good part of this morning looking at videos about how to fix this, how to do this, and I was seeing all manner of videos and everything. But have you seen someone trying to repair a phone? You know how when you open a screen and you're trying to even your phones has a lot of screws, oh, but the screws are so tiny. Um, but if you see how fearful and careful you have to be not to destroy something else. So when David was saying, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, he was saying, see, God paid attention to every detail. It was, you're looking at a masterpiece, and you're looking at the brush strokes, and you have to draw and paint within certain lines so that you don't go outside of a margin and create a mess. That's that's fear. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made is was talking about the intentionality, how careful, how mindful the creator was when he was creating you and I. So I want you to be very fascinated with your design. Be very fascinated with the dreams that won't leave you alone, with the potential, with your giftings, with your talents, right? With your personality. You want to be very curious about self-discovery and self-mastery, understanding this vehicle, this machinery, this equipment, this resource that God has endowed and equipped you to be, because they're a big part of your legacy, right? They're a big part of your life. They're a big part of how you make lasting impact and live beyond today. So we are not called to live ordinary lives. I love Ephesians 2:10. It's one of my favorite scriptures, and I need to pay attention to time. I can tend to speak a lot. Um, they told me I will start 10:50 and I'll end. What time do I need to break for Q&A? Please just help me. So I pace myself.
Let me just check that real quick.
Take
It's Q&A is 11:35.
All right, perfect. We're good. Okay, so guys, when you are thinking about legacy, you're not thinking about something you want to invent right now. You're not thinking about problems that, the problems you are called to solve exist already. If God wanted you in the 18th century, you would have come in the 18th century. If He wanted you in the 21st century, you would have come in the 21st century. So God brought you here in this time, in this season, in this world of AI, big data, in this advance and this decadence and everything we are in right now. And so your assignment is time sensitive, is time specific, is within this context of the world that we are living in. And so we want to pay attention to all of these things as we go on. Right. So let me go through this, right? So just like I said, the creator had a plan he wanted to accomplish and a purpose he wanted to fulfill. Um, and so we were presented with a very intentional and strategic God, very intentional and strategic God. I was talking about Psalm 139, and Jeremiah 1:5 earlier. He's the author of predestination. If you look at the Bible, he was the king of, the Bible is like a chess piece. So moves were made from Genesis 1 that had implications in Matthew chapter 1. right? When man fell, the Bible says even before the foundation of the world, the lamb that was slain was already preserved. So none of these things catches God by accident. We were presented with a very visionary, strategic God. Now, let's see what the first interaction God had with man. When God said, "Let us make man in his own image," and there's a principle of the first mention, right? You get to know a lot about what the Creator had in mind. At the beginning, He spoke to man and said, "Be fruitful and multiply." He said, "Be fruitful and multiply, dominate the earth," right? Replenish the earth, right? He didn't say replenish Eden. Eden was where he was speaking to man in, but he didn't say dominate Eden. He said dominate the earth. So God gave us permission to think big. He's the king of thinking big. And every interaction he had with man, it was about lifting your eyes to dream bigger, to see bigger. Because he created, so he was saying, be fruitful. But he said, don't just be fruitful. He said, that thing you are fruitful at, in the area you are fruitful, multiply. Then he said, replenish the earth. Don't just multiply without purpose. He said, add value, replenish the earth, replenish the earth, replenish the earth. Then he said, add dominion, grow in influence, and exercise dominion. This was the mandate he gave man. So he was saying, think legacy, build legacy, and dominate with legacy. That's what he was saying in Genesis 1. And when we saw him even start interacting, when that whole interaction with man failed and that man did not have a close interaction with him again, the next time he came to visit man, he started talking again about looking at the stars, thinking big. He told someone to get out of his father's country and get to a nation. And he said, see, don't come and think like a pauper in this new nation. Don't think like you are going to be a screw in the wheel of the capitalism in this country. You can think bigger. You can set, and he said, look at the stars and count. Look at the sky and count the stars. When Jesus came in human form and he was talking to 12 people, he said, go you into all the world, right? And make disciples of all nations. So God, I've been sharing a lot about how God has called us to replenish the earth at scale. When Jesus was speaking, he said, you are the light of the world. He didn't say you are the light of Jerusalem. So the significance of your life is beyond what you can imagine. And that's what legacy is all about. So your life is not the impact of your life. The influence of your life is not about your nuclear family, your child, your daughter, your son, your immediate family, your group of friends. Your life counts for much more. So legacy is about impact and influence. Think about the names you just mentioned today. You were mentioning the Buka Oshika. She might not even know you. Bishop Oyedepo, you might not even know you. Brim Graham, you might not have met him or be in the same space with him. Miles Morrow, you might not have met them or be in the same space with them, like one-on-one. But their life inspires something within you. Their life added value to you, right? Their life, resonated with you. They found a way of replenishing you, even though they did not meet you, right? And the gifts of their life keeps giving even right now for those who have left the scene of life, right? So when God looks at you, he sees you as a bundle of purpose, a bundle of legacy, a bundle of influence. And we opening up ourselves to the possibilities of purpose is us opening up ourselves to the fullness of the legacy that our life can make happen. Because we know in parts, we understand in parts. One of the things that God told me to do very early in my life was to start a summer leadership camp for young people. This was like 2012, 2012, yeah. I did not fully understand, but I knew that was one of the things I was meant to do. And I'm going to bring this up very quickly. But I gave myself to it with a couple of friends, and with a lot of people. We're doing these things, doing these things, doing these things, doing these things. But it's making more sense right now why he told me to do those things at that time. So the creator had a plan he wanted to accomplish, a purpose he wanted to fulfill. Very intentional, very strategic God. So when we talk about purpose, we're speaking to why something exists, right? The usefulness. Because sometimes purpose, just jumps over people's head, right?
But we're speaking to the usefulness. So think about all the things around you. Everything has a purpose. The purpose speaks to the usefulness, the responsibility, the assignment, the advantage, the value, and the potential of that thing. Right? And even the legacy of that thing in this context. So when I pick up this airbrush, the usefulness of this airbrush is brushing my hair, right? The responsibility is to brush my hair well. The assignment is to deliver a very good pattern. The advantage is that it's the value. That's why I bought it. That's the value. That's why I sought after it. Right? The potential. It has bristles and brushes so that it can do it very well. The legacy is that it brushed Femi Taiwo's hair. You know, I saw a picture on Twitter yesterday about Chinua Achebe's office that's been preserved for the last 13 years or so since they died. I think is it 13 years or 23 years now? They left everything. So that chair that he sat on, the legacy of that chair is that Chinua Achebe used that chair. Right? The purpose of the chair was to make anybody that sits on it, be comfortable, carry the weight. The potential, it had 4 legs so that it could carry the weight of an individual. It's leather or it has cushion because it's meant to provide some comfort while I'm sitting. Then if it's ergonomic, it's to support my back in a certain way. So you can see purpose and potential intertwined and interwoven, and even legacy. Right? So you can have 4 chairs and one chair will deliver the legacy of healthy backs because of the way it was designed. Another one will just deliver the legacy of sitting people. So purpose speaks to why something exists. And I want to tell you this, that God never wasted an ounce of mud. There's a reason you can do what you can do. There's a reason you are wired the way you are wired. So you want to get so excited and curious about your design, right? There's a purpose, for you. There's a reason. God never wasted an ounce of mud, right? It doesn't matter how many rejections you've gotten. It doesn't matter your family background. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter whether you're a newbie in a new industry or whatever. You are valuable, and you just have to find that value and then spend time to refine that value and present that value to the world. So just like I said earlier, purpose informed design and thus potential. And design speaks to your uniqueness, your gifts, your talents, your personality, your passion. And one of the things I always tell people is that in a way you are perfect and fit for purpose, right? But yes, you can get more fit because that's the whole idea of personal development and developing your talents, developing your gifts. But in potential form, you are fit for purpose, right? You have everything it takes to do what you were designed to do, right? And it's because the task you are to do prompted the tools you were given. Some of those tools you will pick up in life. You still have to pick up some things, but you have enough in you. And that's why I love the name for this, success within, because sometimes what you are looking for outside is within. In fact, the things within will attract the other things outward. The things within will attract those things outward within you. And so you don't want to think about legacy outside of purpose, right? So your pursuit of legacy is actually and ideally is safer pursued in purpose. Why you are here, what you're meant to be doing, how you're meant to be doing it, what you're meant to be doing part-time, with who you're meant to be doing, all of these matters. Now, one of the things I want to say here is legacy is not waiting for you tomorrow. Purpose is not waiting for you tomorrow. Every season of your life, and please don't forget this, every season of your life is a season to fulfill purpose. At this time T of your life, even though you are still so I always talk about the cycle of self-discovery, self-development, and self-deployment. Every season of your life is an opportunity to discover more about yourself, to develop more of yourself, and to deploy yourself. So there's no time. Don't say, okay, I'm in school right now, I'm just discovering myself. Even while you're in school, you can start exercising your potential. There are things, there are assignments, there are things you have to do. So just think about David. David was tending to the sheep. That season of his life, he had to dominate there. He had to exercise his gifts there. He had to administer. He had to shepherd well before he could shepherd people. So every season of your life, is legacy mode. You are not waiting for legacy. Your legacy doesn't start from 40s. Your legacy doesn't start from 50s. Your legacy starts from now. The way you live your life, the attributes that you give yourself to, the purposeful living, the intentional living, right? So how do we go ahead to discover this purpose or define it? What do we do? I always talk about looking up, looking within, and looking around. So looking up is paying attention to your manufacturer, because the guy definitely knows everything about you. He made you. And so everything we do, every posture and position we take to really receive from God, you know, to receive instructions, directions, to download and catch a revelation and a blueprint for our life from God, is looking up. Every posture you take in worship, in prayer, in fasting, in studying the word, but that's something, because you see, you can have 10 chairs. You can understand that you're a chair, but you might not understand where you're meant to stay in the table, or understand who is meant to sit on you. So, looking within is not enough, because looking within is about, the whole idea of understanding your personality, doing surveys and, understanding your strengths, understanding your talents, your giftings. That's looking within. Looking around speaks to looking at the things that excite you about society, the problems or the frustrations that annoy you, that you're connected to. Those things, because sometimes looking within can show you passion, but passion is not equals to direction. Passion is not necessarily equals to instruction. Passion is not necessarily equals to assignment. Passion is not equals to even go in some instances. So building that relationship with our maker, and making sure that line of communication is kept alive, and learning to know the voice of God, learning to know how God leads you, because God leads you in legacy. God is not a short-term thinker. God thinks generations. God thinks big. He thinks generations. It takes generations. So when God sees your life, he sees not just the seed, he sees the trees and the forest that can come out of your life. He knows that there might be someone that is a fruit of your life further down the line in another nation. And he's just asking you to take a step and plant your seed in that ground, because someone else needs a shade in 10 years' time. Right? So God thinks generation, he thinks really big. And so, one of the things I used to tell myself very early, because I took a very unconventional path to my career, very, very unconventional path. And that was by divine leading. I didn't choose it. In fact, it wasn't convenient, it wasn't easy. But one of the things I used to tell myself then is that God cannot mismanage my life. Right? God cannot mismanage my life. If I follow him, if I trust him and follow him, he led me into all of the things I'm doing, right? And into all of the things I've done. He led me into everything, right? So you want to make sure you're looking up. You're constantly looking up. You're constantly looking up. You want to pay attention to the things God has told you. See, God does not lie. And his word is here and amen. He said, he was talking about predestination. He said, I would seek a bed from the far east, a man to fulfill my counsel. He said, surely my counsel will stand and my will be done. See, God, those who partner with God, and by trusting him and following the path he has set for them, God unleashes another level of glory and commitment, to that kind, pays attention to those things. I was talking about Ephesians 2:10 that talks about we are God's masterpiece, recreated in Christ Jesus unto good works, which we were predestined to do. So there are good works which we were predestined to do. I like the translation that said, the translation I think was amplified or message, I'm not sure now, of that same Ephesians 2:10 that said, see, to do good works that we were prepared in advance to do, to take parts that were prearranged in advance for us to take, and to live a good life that was prepared in advance for us to live. So there are things that predate us. There are pathways that predate us. There are blueprints that predate us. There are assignments that have our name to them, and this is really what legacy is all about. You don't have to also to do legacy. Pursue purpose, fulfill purpose. I love the way Mother Teresa puts it. She said, God has not called us to be successful. God has called us to be faithful. So if you choose faithfulness on the path of purpose, faithfulness will lead you to significance. Because your purpose is significant in the scheme of things. You might not fully understand it, but in the scheme of things, whether here on this side of eternity or on the other side of eternity, you would understand the big picture. Right? So you want to pay attention to looking up, and you must be satisfied with that. So another thing is looking within. The Bible says it's the honor of kings to search it out. That is the glory of God to conceal a matter, and the honor of kings to search it out. You want to spend time understanding yourself, your giftings, your talents, the dreams that won't leave you alone. Because trust me, purpose is not outside of you, it's within you. Think about scriptures. Think about Moses. What he was frustrated about was one of the things he was called to solve. Think about Jesus. Think about how connected he was to the way the temple was being managed, which was a picture of the bigger temple or the main temple he was trying to secure, right? Which is human beings themselves. right? So just think about it. There's so much in our wiring, our personality, our passion, the dreams that won't leave us alone, that speaks to something eternal, something enduring within us, something legacy is beckoning on us. Legacy is actually hardwired within us in a powerful way, right? You can find 10 different friends. In fact, you can find a set of twins, and they're passionate about two different things. They have different personalities. That's because they're called to different things, you know. So you want to pay attention to what is in your hand, the talents that are within you. And then you also want to pay attention to the things around you. So as much as legacy is within you, there are some things outside that will be speaking to the things within you. You need to say, what are the opportunities that look like you, that fit you? What problems and frustration, are calling your name? You want to pay attention and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel so frustrated about this and annoyed about this? Is there a part for me to play? Think about Nehemiah. Nehemiah, Nehemiah heard about the ruin that Jerusalem had become and the walls. And this guy was just so stressed and just so vexed. He was living in comfort. So some of you are in Ontario, you are in Toronto, but Nigeria cannot leave your mind. And it will not leave your mind in Jesus' name. Amen. Right? It doesn't mean you have to come back, but it means you have to have your Nigerian plan. You have to have a way of replenishing Nigeria, or you have to find your assignment and your own purpose, because God is also in the business of sending people outside of their countries. In fact, it's a scriptural thing, right? But God is also in the business of bringing people back, or in the business of having people do things, from wherever they are for the sake of the people that they left behind, right? So I want to say you want to pay attention to the possibilities that excite you, to the images of possibilities that excite you, because these seeds of opportunities are what makes up legacy, what makes up destiny, what makes up life, right? So that's where I'm going to pause right now. I'm going to pause here. I actually had this thought, and maybe I should just share it. Because when we think about legacy, legacy is not about you. It's not about self-aggrandizement. And I know many people are running away from ministry. So this thing is a trigger for a lot of people. But what is ministry? Ministry is just service. It just means service. So I'm not talking about necessarily the fivefold ministries right now. I'm just saying that we are all called to be missionaries. We're all called to missions. We're all called to serve our generation. I love the way Martin Luther King puts it. He said, life's most urgent and important question is, what are you doing for others? So all the names you mentioned here are not living for themselves. That's why I like the fact that you guys use the word love. You use the word selflessness and sacrifice. You are called to live on the sacrificial part. You are called to the ministry of redemption. And redemption means sacrifice. You will do things outside of your comfort zone. Purpose will take you out of your comfort zone. I was joking with my team that I hardly have weekends sometimes, right? And I was like, I'm going to be saying no to a lot more things. But I was just telling myself, see, Femi, is that not your assignment? Is that not what you are called to? Right? Is that not what you are called to? Yes, you can find more effective and efficient ways of doing it, but that's what you are called to. So you are called, when you think legacy is service, and you can start serving from where you are today. You can start deploying yourself in service. You can start giving expressions to the gifts, to the talents, to the callings of God in your life. You can start adding value to other people and start adding value to society. Start adding value to your community and to your nation, right? So that's my calling to you, that thinking beyond today and living a life of legacy is actually living a life of legacy daily. Thinking about how you can serve, what service means for you today, what value means for you today, expressing your gifts, your talents, finding purpose in doing things purposefully, consistently over time, and it compounds into legacy. It compounds into a legacy of leadership, a legacy of service, a legacy of impact, and it compounds into influence. It compounds into personal brand. It compounds into all of the things that we typically always seek after. So I'm just going to pause here and take a few questions. Let me pause now.
FT, thank you so much. Like, the angle to which you took the topic of legacy is so different but so impactful. In your session, there were times when I actually just wanted to burst out speaking in tongues because, like, you explained, like, talking even the scripture about being fruitful and multiplying. When you talk about it from the aspect of legacy, is so powerful, right? And just a summary of many of the things that you've said. That, like, when I asked about the cactus, it's very interesting how I just said it's an interesting plant to have in a house, like cactus. But see the spin off, like, understand where you are planted, understand what you need per time. You're not sent to every season, you're not sent to every direction, you're not sent to just everything. Understand where you can thrive and thrive in it. And you also, at the beginning, it's very interesting that you wrote, what I would have said, what is my purpose in life, but you said, what is the purpose of life? Because at the end of the day, when you tie that back to looking up, it's like, what is the master's grand picture? And then what is my own piece in this picture? So thank you so much for sharing. I know many people have questions. There's a question that I have, and please, Tim, feel free to send the questions to me, put them in the chat box, or just raise your hand so we can call you. Definitely sure many people have questions. There's a question here that talks about looking up and looking around. And it says, in what ways can you align with God's perspective of success, reshape, let me read that again. In what way can aligning with God's perspective of success reshape how you use your influence in the spaces He has placed you? Spaces like family, community, career, and church. I can copy that and put it in the chat box, but I'll read again. In what ways can aligning with God's perspective of success reshape how you use your influence in spaces that He has placed you? Family, community, career, and church.
Thank you so much. But one of the realities that I like the way you said perspective of success, because success means different things to different people. Um, and there's success definitely from God's point of view, right? From God's point of view. Um, so how can you please put the question in the comment box, right? How can you leverage everywhere you are? I'm trying to rephrase it, as a way to live a successful life. So you've put it, in what ways can aligning with God's perspective reshape how you use your influence in spaces He has placed you, like family? In what ways can aligning with God's perspective of success? Okay. So there are different ways this can work. I think one of the ways I've started to look at this even more intentionally is see that you are called to people. You're called to people. When we say ministry is your destiny, many people are looking outwards. And yes, it's both outwards and inwards. But you're called to your family. Maybe let's start with that. You're called to your family. You're called to your spouse if you're married, right? You're called to your children. You are definitely called to your children. Oh God. Sometimes I'm just looking at my children. I was looking at my daughter yesterday night, and this one I was like, oh boy, this one is just growing old and growing old. Am I doing my best, to really steward this gift that God has given me, right? Am I doing my best to steward this gift that God has given me? We have a set of twin boys, where they were 18 months, I think, last week or so. And I was just like, their journey is just starting. They are all about playing and carrying me and throw me up and do all that. But I have some insight into what God has called them to be, because I knew about them. I heard a little bit about them before they came. So I'm just like, okay, how do we raise these ones, right? So one of the major perspectives of success is that, you see, God has not called you to. There's a scripture, there's a perspective I've held very dearly this year. Maybe this is one way to think about it. Is that concept of teach us to number our days, right? Many people it's very easy to live for tomorrow, to say, tomorrow I will do this, tomorrow I'll be this, tomorrow I'll become that, tomorrow I'll make this happen, tomorrow I'll do that. And it's very easy to be thinking about things that are outward and not think about things that are inward, things when the ball that is in our court. So I'm saying you are called to the people around you, and you're called to now. You're called to now. What is in your hands now, and where are you now? You cannot be Joseph and say, one day everybody will bow to me. and you are not serving well in Potiphar's house, or you are not using your gift and serving well and not having the right attitude in the prison, right? So success is not waiting for you tomorrow. Success is who you are today. Success is how you show up today. Success is how you show up in the context you are in the context of your family. You might still not, you might be single, you might even be married, but how do you show up with your parents? How do you show up with your siblings? How do you show up for your siblings and your parents? How do you show up in your job that you are while you're still looking for a better breakthrough in your career? Definitely, how do you show up in your church? How are you stewarding your gifts in your church today? Right? Are you part of the solution, or are you just part of the pews and just sitting, keeping the pews warm and cool? Another thing is, are you part of the solutions in your community? The Bible was talking about God looking for a man. The Bible says that the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. So can you show up? So one of the things I have to say is that part of God's expectation is that you say, "Here I am, send me." No matter how incomplete you feel, no matter how inadequate you feel, one of the major things you will have to learn to do is to show up and show up. So God is not asking for perfection, right? God is just saying, you know what, show up, and then show up better the next time. Right? Show up with intention today, then show up with more intention tomorrow. Right? And this is how legacy is built. Legacy, I can tell you that all of the names that you mentioned, that's why I said intentionality and consistency are the two words that stood out for me. Because I'm sure if you ask Success Bayo, you ask several people in the room, if you guys have experienced this, you don't feel like, don't let me lie. Let me tell you the truth. I was so tired this particular few weeks have been quite tiring for me, and I was not even feeling well a week ago. But we had like guests from like 8 countries. We were doing a boot camp in Lagos, right? So I showed up for day one, did my own sessions. My team members, were held the fort, with the guest speakers for the next 2 days. I had to compulsorily like rest, but I had to travel and do several things again. I did that. I came back. Then I was just like, I have back-to-back things I've said yes to. Yesterday, I had to do marriage counseling with my wife, for our church community. I had to do this. Then I was like, oh boy, this morning I just want to sit down and watch series. Like, like Success Bio and Success Within International. Last night, one of my team members was like, Femi, what slides are you using today? We've not talked about your session today. I said, don't worry. Because I'm as tired as I am to, you're probably tired. But I was like, see, but one thing I tell you is that my wife always joking. Yesterday, I was begging my wife 15 minutes before the marriage counseling class that please, can you take this session alone? Can you take this session alone? I said, see, if you take this session tomorrow, I'm taking you on date night. She was like, she said, Femi, you don't want to know the kind of day I've had. Please, let's do it together. Let's do it together. Showing up is work, oh. Showing up is work. So what I want to say is that God's expectation is showing up in every of this season. Just show up for your family, show up for your friends, show up in church, show up in service, show up, and then grow up while showing up. Grow up while showing up. Showing up is the first thing to do, and then grow up while showing up and get better while showing up, right? So that's what I would say to that. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the perspective I just wanted to comment.
Thank you so much. I believe it did, and if it didn't, please, you can send me another private message. We have another question here that also ties to.
Let's take Alex.
Yeah, Alexander. Pardon?
Alexander Zanz.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Alex, go, and then the question in the chat box. Rhoda.
Okay. Hi, good morning. And thank you so much. I've honestly learned, for people that follow me on social media, I posted this week about how I've been feeling very slow in movement in life. And I just really talked about how mentally I've just not felt 100%. And this session, sorry, I'm very teary. This session is really impactful for me, and I've learned a lot. I guess my question is, in a world where naturally I would prefer to be in Nigeria, just because it's my home, but like you've initially mentioned, we're called to our children, and then I'm thinking of the future of my children. I just don't want them to be stuck with a green passport. they cannot do things I would ideally explore the world the way I would honestly love to explore if I had a different passport or a different, not that I'm shaming Nigerian passport, but I mean, the amount of impact I would like to make. I still do the little I do, being in here in the UK, London, and I work with different organizations. I've set up groups. I know that my calling is to help people, giving out food, making the Bible accessible to people around the streets. That's what I do here. But I know ideally, deep down, God sees my heart. I would be more comfortable, more better equipped to be in Nigeria and more impact made if I'm in Nigeria. But then, like I said, thinking, so how do you balance that wave of the economic world that we live in right now, access to opportunities, thinking of the future of, like I said, my children and things like that, and then still being true to yourself and true to that calling. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alexander. Thank you so much. Thank you. I like the question. I can relate to the question. I'm sure people like, maybe you did Japan, how can you relate to the question? Well, I'm a global citizen and I'm grateful for that. But one of the things I would say is this, Alex. Don't feel bad about not being in Nigeria. I cannot even shame anybody to be in Nigeria. I've totally moved on from that. I cannot even be that. So some of us are holding Nigeria for you, you know. So just hold our hands as we're holding Nigeria. But what I would say is this. Let's look at Nehemiah. Nehemiah definitely would have felt guilty. He was living in excellence and in splendor. He was living in the king's palace, right? And Nehemiah and Jerusalem was in ruins. Jerusalem was in ruins. What was Nehemiah's first response? Nehemiah's first response was, the Bible says he was teary, he cried. He was, actually, okay, I was living in the UK in 2014. So I went for my master's in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I was already working. I had graduated. I was already working. I had, I didn't have visa issues, any of those things. Now, not everybody will follow my path, but I want to make sure you follow your path. That's the most important thing. There's no advice I can give you. There's no direct advice I can give you because it's very specific to you and your own journey, right? And your own seasons. And God will require different things from us at different points in time. But here was I living in Manchester. And obviously, I'm so connected to the problems in this country in a way I cannot describe. That's why let me give another. I'll give two examples. So this was Manchester. I had a new job offer, but I was working in a research consultancy, but I had another job offer from one tech firm like that. So this particular day, I went to the office. And one of the things I typically do is look at Nigerian newspapers, just pay attention to Twitter, to see what's going on, because I just can't get away from the news and all of those things. And it was that day that the Chibok girls were kidnapped. Oh God. I don't think you can imagine what the headlines were, what the tears, what Twitter was like on that day, and blah 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 blah. So I could not concentrate at work in Manchester. A day before that, they had found this house of horrors on the Ibadan Expressway. I don't know if you guys can remember that week, where it was a kidnapper's den and they rescued some people that had been stuck there. They were selling human parts, everything. And I was like, what's all this rubbish going on in this country? And I was sitting down there and I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing in Manchester? Honestly, that's what I was saying. Guess what I did? I stood up. I went to my manager, my boss, one white guy. What's his name again? John Keith or something like that. And then I told him that, see, I have to quit my job. I'm going back to my country. I'm telling you, I didn't wake up that morning that I'm quitting my job. I literally went to the guy and said, please, there's so much going on. I want to be part of it. The guy was like, are you sure? He said, blah, 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 this and that and that. What will be your plan when you get back? What will be this? What will be the blah, 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 blah? I said, I don't have any plan. I don't have any job waiting for me. I don't have any of these things. So you know what he said? He said, you know what? He said, I'm going to keep your job here for you for 6 months. We're going to pay you off, pay you all your everything, all your gratitude, everything. Release all the funds to you. Go to your country. But if you feel like you want to come back, 6 months, your job will be waiting for a year. Right? So anyway, I decided I left Manchester, came to UK, came to London, I beg your pardon, to spend just like a week or two with my sister. In fact, what I did within those 2 weeks was I even took all the money and paid for an executive course in London So I used all my money. So I came to Nigeria broke. But my plan was just I was just gonna volunteer first. I was gonna start and volunteer. I start from one place and be volunteering. But that was one of the things I did. But that was I don't know whether it was stupid or wise. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know whether it was stupid or wise. And I would not advise anybody to do that. I didn't have children then. I wasn't married then. So obviously, Alexander, you have kids. Don't do that. Um, but I've learned to pay attention to the things going on within me. But there's a more intelligent way to do what I did, which is what Nehemiah did. Nehemiah went and started praying. Oh, yet you don't have kids yet. Okay. Nehemiah went ahead and started praying. He turned those tears to cries in prayer. And I was reading from that verse where they said Nehemiah went and started fasting and praying to the time when he went to the king with a proposal. It was almost 4 months. So it wasn't just chapter 1 to chapter 2, right? It was 4 months. So I can imagine the thinking, the reflection, and all of the things that must be happening in that season. So I'm not saying you are praying to go and say, God, should I go back to Nigeria? One of the ways we can, there's some what you have is a burden. And don't disregard the burdens that are in your heart. That's part of purpose and legacy. That's legacy and purpose tugging at your heart, tugging at you. So one of the things to do with burdens is you pray with burdens. You pray through burdens. And then God gives you insights. He gives you clarity. He tells you what to do. Assignments come out of burdens. Perspective comes out of burdens. Directions and instructions comes out of burdens. Peace even comes out of burdens. Because God will tell you, calm down. Calm down. Do you understand? But don't just disregard the burdens within you. You want to pray with them. You want to think about them. You want to meditate. You want to reflect, on those burdens, the burdens that are going on within you, right? Those burdens will birth purpose. Think about it. Everybody you mentioned had burdens. Everybody, if you know their story, what you are calling legacy today was burdened before in their heart, or still burdened in their heart, that they've now given voice to, or given expression to, giving solutions to. So burdens is a powerful gift. Burdens are a powerful gift, right? So what you are feeling, that pain, that hurt, it's powerful. Harness it and just convert that potential into something, and start with prayer, and then start with prayer, then start with planning. Those are two things to do with bodies. You pray, you plan. You pray, you research, you plan, right? Then you just clarity. What might come out of that might be a time frame for you. Might be a time frame for you. What might come out of that from you might be seeking out some communities, right? To start doing something even while you're still abroad. But I don't know what will come out of that for you because I'm not God, right? But I can say that that's one of the ways to utilize, that's one of the things to do with the bodies that you have, right? Number two is that, guys, those of you abroad, you have an advantage. And I kid you not. Like, don't waste the time that you have abroad. Don't do abroad life like the way this is not the first time people jackpot. We had people jackpot in the 80s, people jackpot in the 90s. I have some mentors, right, who jackpot in the 80s or 90s. I mean, I didn't know them then, I know them now. But I have two particular case studies, two couples. They are billionaires in pounds, both of them. Now, you can go there the way I mean, I know this for a fact. I work in international development. All of these gateways for bringing people abroad are mostly to benefit the West. They have their programs, they have their design, they have their plans, they have their agenda, right? You obviously know they open it up when they feel like there's a shortfall of some talent or some skill sets. All this, everybody's doing global talent or having a form of 1%, whether HB1, EB1, this and that. Australia has their own international diplomacy right now. And I was speaking to, I can't even say the person I was speaking to, but a major part of the West right now, their international diplomacy direction is this. Once upon a time, they were talking about the youth bulge in Africa. And, you are hearing things like it's a potential, or it can be a time bomb, right? The West, this is where they are right now, based on their statistics. Because of the advance in AI and all of these things, before they were looking at us as the human capital power of the world. Like, this is the youthful talent we're going to be, this is the workforce of the future. But now they realize they don't need that workforce again because of rapid mechanization, machine learning and all of these things. They don't need numbers. They just need quality. So they've come to the conclusion that I heard this from international diplomacy or people. They've come to the conclusion that, which is why everybody's tightening their belt. And there are all manner of protectionism sentiments of go back to your country, this and that and that. And laws are being changed across everywhere. They've come to the conclusion that Africa is going to be a time bomb. It's no longer this youthful capital is no longer capital. It's now a time bomb, right? And they don't need the numbers again because of the rapid improvement in technology, AI, and all of these things. And so they have this extract and contain plan. I'm telling you for a fact. I mean, they have this extract and contain plan in international diplomacy. They want to extract the top 1%, then extract the new form of what they call it, natural resources they need for batteries and all of those things. But they will extract the 1%. So everybody's shifting their policy towards, let's just get the best 1% in arts, in STEM, in all the most talented. So everybody's doing talent visas, this and that and that and that. So they want to extract the best and then contain the rest, right? And then you guys will figure out your mess. And if there's going to be a time bomb, if there's going to be any pandemic, if there's going to be any issue, we are like everybody. Even UK now is doing what they call it. Even if you have the UK visa, you have to do ETA, right? Electronic travel authorization. People are trying to Schengen. Before, if you had a Schengen visa, you can just move around. But even Schengen is saying that from next year that you need electronic travel authorizations to just move across borders. There's just all manner of protectionism going on. So we have to figure out how to solve our problems. Nobody's going to come and solve Africa's problem. So what you guys have is the opportunity to increase in capital, to increase in intellectual capital, to increase in to gather capital that you can come and deploy to solve problems. Intellectual capital, financial capital, relational capital, social capital, all forms of capital, right, that you can use to come and deploy. So don't go there and be thinking small. Don't stay there and be thinking small. Don't be thinking about the next hustle. I want to get a job. I want to work in Wall Street. I want to get this. I want to move to this. Go there and think entrepreneurial. Think entrepreneurial. Think big. Think systems. Understand the system. Understand the system. Take advantage of the system to move forward and to grow and to increase and amass capital. All forms of capital, right? So don't just stay in the Nigerian WhatsApp group and in the don't just stay in the don't stay in the mediocre WhatsApp group. Pursue new relationships, pursue new communities, shine your eyes, build, increase in knowledge, increase in wisdom, increase in all of these things, and then always pay attention to Nigeria and say, or to Africa or your continent, and be saying, what part can I play? What role can I play? What can I build for my continent? How can I be part of my continent? Because you have an advantage. You have an advantage. That's what I would say. I don't know when this went into become a Japa seminar. But by the way, this is one of the things I want to do more of, actually. So success, I actually want to talk to you, Bayo, because I get to travel a lot, but me, I just come and go. I just go here and there everywhere, right? So I actually want to do a lot with diaspora community for many things, just to help help them get perspective and gain perspective better and maximize their time. So I guess we can talk about it. But let me pose the other question. Or I think we're done.
Yeah, we have just one more question.
Okay.
I think it's a light one. It says, give me a bit of time. You emphasized, I'm not sure if it's this one. Wait, there are two. I loved your illustration about the shark and the monkey. Many people struggle with comparison. How can we embrace our own design, gifts, talents, passions without feeling less than someone else? And then I'll just wrap it with the second one. Sorry, that says you emphasized on legacy not being about you. In a world that often pushes self-promotion, how do we keep service at the center of the legacy we build or we're building?
Yeah. Let me start with the second question. So we are called to service. We are called to serve others. One of the things I would say is that how do you stay grounded? How do you stay true? How do you stay authentic in your pursuit of service? One of the statements, I'm going to use this statement by, I think it's Pastor Iran, Apostle Emmanuel Iran. And I've been hearing him say this statement for like the last decade. I mean, before even all of this growth and all of this increase across everyone's life. Um, he used to use this statement, I'm ambitious for a righteous cause. I'm ambitious for a righteous cause. I have a couple of friends, and these my friends are billionaires in Nigeria, in Naira, and they're always trying to do new things and do bigger things and all of this. And even though they've achieved some level of success, everybody struggles with this in their mind that um, there are different dimensions of it or expressions of imposter syndrome. There's the expression of there's the imposter syndrome of who am I to do this, which is almost all forms of imposter syndrome. Who am I to have this? Who am I to be this? Who am I to do this? Right? There's also the imposter syndrome is success, where you're like, am I not doing too much? This and that and that and that. So one of the things I always say, or one of the mentality that you can have, one of the safety nets you can build for your mind is I'm living for God. The Bible says, let your light so shine before all men. Not for you, not to applaud you. Let your light so shine. So when you start living for God for real, when you understand that God owns the patent over your life, over your gifts, over your callings, over you as a product, and He gets all the glory, and you're living for His glory, and you are making sure everything points to Him, and you're constantly redirecting it all back to Him, you are safe. You are safe to pursue any aspiration or any ambition. So I'm ambitious for a righteous cause, right? My ambition is rooted in purpose, in the pursuit of God, in the pursuit of in the pursuit of giving God glory. I'm living for His glory. I'm living for His glory. I'm living so I can be audacious for His sake. I have His permission to shine. I'm not shining for myself. I'm shining for His glory. I give Him glory by shining. Trust me, it's not as easy as I'm saying, but if you can move your mind into that space and stay secured in that space, you would do everything your life. You would step into everything that your life ought to step into, all the glory, without feeling bad, without feeling sad, without feeling small. Because small people around you unconsciously want you to be small too. They call your manifesting or your expression or your assertion about life. They call it ego. They call it pride. But you're not in the same mind space. You're not in the same mind space, right? Not everybody understands the need to have a cook or have a driver or to do this. You're not trying to buga. It's just your life. You're building efficiency and effectiveness into your life in your own right, right? So that's the first thing I would say, that live your life for an audience of one, for God. Yeah, take feedback, be grounded, but if you are all about giving God glory genuinely, and that's a part that only you and God can tell, and there's a posture you can take, the posture of gratitude, of giving thanks, of giving Him all the glory publicly, privately. If that's your occupation, the occupation of your mind, I mean, that's a good place to be. Now, to the first question, which is comparison, right? The issue of comparison. How do you deal with that? Man, first is you have to train yourself, right? That's all I would say, because you have to train yourself to understand that men are in sizes, men are and people are in different phases of their lives. So get excited about everybody in their own phase, and don't use that to limit yourself. One of the things, so you just have to train yourself not to compare. That's what I would say. You just have to train yourself not to compare. I wanted to share something around, one of the things that people, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. In this whole idea of comparison, don't make your decision based on comparison. Let people's journey inspire you. Let people's journey motivate you and encourage you. But you cannot be jumping from pillar to post. You cannot be jumping everywhere. The first thing you have to recognize is that you're a seed, right? So the legacy is in seed form. And this seed form captures everything about your untapped ability, unused power, what you can do, but you've not yet done, what you can be, but you've not yet manifested. But you have to stay planted. You have to stay planted. You have to stay planted. Everybody you wrote their names, that their legacy inspired you, you can tie their name to one field or one industry or one area, amongst other things. They might have other expressions, but you can tie them to one thing in one major season of their life, even before they pivoted to something else. Right? So there you have to stay planted in the right place. And the right place is not even necessarily about countries right now. It's just about what field, what industry, your calling. And coincidentally, I actually wrote about the cactus here. I know someone asked about the cactus. How the the best things that can happen to the cactus is not to have too much water. So some people, some part of your gifts will not come alive in the abundance of Canada. Some part of it will find expression, but some part of your gifts will find maximum expression in obscurity, because that's where that light is designed to shine maximally. And so even though you might be in Canada or you might be in UK, my question is, how can you start giving expression to that side of you in an obscure place? Because that's where it's designed to find full expression. Right? And I'm a very big fan of following God's plan for your life and following, because even God knows geography. God knows geography. So the best thing you want to do is you want to be where God wants you to be. So champions champions are people who will define by the legacy of their sports. They stick to their field of play. They stick there. If you talk about John C. Maxwell, you're talking about one thing he gave his life to. If you're talking about Miles Monroe, one thing he gave his life to. Billy Graham, that someone mentioned here. So the right soil matters, and the right soil in this context is purpose. It's purpose. It's purpose. It's purpose. It's purpose. And I tell you that if you pursue your own purpose, all of the things that you are seeing in other people's life, and the funniest is that those people might be following their own path. They are following their own path, and you are seeing glory on their pathways. You are seeing favor on their pathway. You are seeing prosperity. You are seeing genius. You are seeing influence, seeing them going in influence. But you are being distracted by looking at their path. You have to stay in your own lane and run your own path, because there's also glory in your own path. There's also favor in your own path. There's also increase in your own path. So you need to pay attention to your own path, even as you are being inspired on other people on their own lanes. So that's what I'm just going to pause with. Surprisingly, I'd actually put that on my slide already. So I just thought I should run through that again. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're really already out of time, but in my mind's eye, I see like a passion twin of yours. There's also my mentor on the call, and I thought, who best to wrap up such a powerful session than Adebayo Ajayi himself. So I'm just gonna hand over to Agabayo, but thank you, FT. God bless you for pouring into us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Fumito. Excellent moderation as usual. I would like to just paint a story about FT before I as part of my vote of thanks. I studied chemical engineering at Covenant University, and while I was in 100 level, I was looking for an academic mentor. And then I had to, and of course, if you know me, you know I really like academics. So I had to, look at CGPAs from 200 level chemical engineering to 500 level chemical engineering. So I had to just look at, who are the guys on the first class, and, I want to basically meet them. So I wrote a lot of people's names down, and one particular person stood out to me. He was in 400 level at that time. His name was Victor Emenike. And, I met him, we discussed, he was a Christian, and, he said to me that, I have a mentor as well. I said, who's your mentor? He said, Femi Taiwo. I'm like, but Femi Taiwo is in computer science. You are in chemical engineering. And he said to me that, Femi Taiwo and him, I think they were in the same course, chemical engineering, 100 level. And Femi Taiwo said, you know what? I don't want to do chemical engineering again. I want to go to computer science. I'm like, who will leave engineering to a management science? And, he said, if you meet Femi Taiwo, you will see that he's different. And imagine, my mentor as a mentor that were probably on the same level. And, and when I met Femi Taiwo probably like 4 or 5 years after that particular scenario. And when I met Femi Taiwo, I said, of course, Femi Taiwo is purpose driven, and meeting you, as I don't think we probably met one-on-one physically, but I say a lot of work you do. I follow you closely. I'm in a Transformation Thursday class. And one thing I can say is that you were actually fit for this purpose. The way you answered question, one particular one that stood out to me was when you answered Rhoda's question about people that have to be in diaspora for a season and use Nehemiah as a case study. If Nehemiah at all was basically not where he was not going to get the entourage privilege and everything he required to fight against Tobiah and all. Thank you so much, sir. And consistency is very critical in any man's journey, and you have actually been very consistent with every single thing you've done, right from Hope Foundation days and everything that you've done. And this particular session, thank God that it's recorded and is on YouTube. It's a session that we all need to keep going back to. When you want to start your season, you need to go back to this session. When you are tired halfway, you need to go back to this session. When you are looking for why did I even start in the first place, go back to this session. When you want to compare yourself with someone else, go back to this session, because this session was, it helps for those that want to start, those that have started, those that are tired, and those that need to basically remember the reason why they are doing what they are doing. And thank you so much for yielding to our call, and for choosing to accept even despite your busy schedule. It also shows exactly how you are living what you've preached, saying that the greatest humanity we can give, the greatest gift we can give humanity is service. I just want to say thank you so much, sir. We really do appreciate you. God will keep strengthening you, and more impact, and more grace in Jesus' name. Thank you, Fumito, for an excellent moderation. You did the best as always. And to all the leaders of Success Within International, I want to say a very big thank you. Thank you for always choosing to show up. Thank you for choosing to serve at Success Within International. God bless you all. And to every single person that attended this breakfast meeting today, I want to say that knowing is not enough. You must do. And if you don't apply what you've learned, you've basically wasted about 2 hours of your Saturday morning. So it's so important for you to apply. And guess what? The biggest jackpot in life is not getting ideas. It's not even the strategy, it's in execution. Until you execute, until you utilize what you won't make any difference at all. So go out today, make a difference. Write down an action plan or what exactly you intend to do going forward, and you will see the difference in your life. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. It's a great opportunity hosting you on behalf of all Success Within International leaders, hosting you at today's breakfast meeting. See you next month, 3rd Saturday in September. We'll see you again. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing weekend. Oh, sorry, over to you, Fumito.
No, thank you, everyone. Nothing much to say. Thank you so much. Have a blessed weekend. Go on and build that legacy, and God bless you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.